Hi friends, welcome to classes by Lab Doctor. I'm Dr. Divya, and in today's class let us see what is the relationship between the sodium and water. In the previous classes we have discussed about serum sodium, the functions of serum sodium, etc. But water and sodium plays an important role in the homeostasis. 60% of our body is made up of water. So water is a very important component of the human body. So this water is divided in the ICF and ECF compartment. So suppose if a man weighs 70 kgs, 60% of his body weight, that means 42 liters would be the total water in his body, out of which 28 liters would be in his ICF and 14 liters would be in this extracellular fluid. So this is important because to understand the fluid balance, the acid base balance, the electrolyte balance, we need the distribution. See, this is the intracellular fluid which is rich in potassium. Now the intracellular fluid is essential for the normal cell function. It provides the medium for a metabolic processes of the cell. So that is why this intracellular water becomes important. Now the extracellular fluid is divided into intravascular, that is inside the arteries, veins, capillaries, the plasma what you get. So that is intravascular. It is interstitial. The sodium, you can see the majority of the sodium is in the interstitial spaces. So this is the interstitial space. Interstitial space is the space between the cells. And then you have the transcellular. So transcellular is across the cells, like you have the spaces, like you have the cerebrospinal fluid, you have the pleural space, you have the synovial space, peritoneal fluid spaces. All these spaces, these are the transcellular fluids. So I have told you that sodium is concentrated more in the extracellular fluid, especially in the interstitium. So the normal sodium distribution will depend upon the total body water. Before we understand the relationship between sodium and water, you also need to understand the concept of osmolality. So osmolality is a measure of concentration of the solutes which are dissolved in the fluid. Here we are talking about osmolality of blood or osmolality of the urine. So it is expressed as the number of milliosmoles of solute per kilogram of solvent, and the normal osmolality is between 275 to 295 milliosmoles per kg. So this osmolality depends on the sodium. So if the sodium increases, the osmolality will increase. So osmolality is the measure of the dissolved particles inside a fluid. So what fluid? It could be plasma. Osmolality means the amount of solids which are dissolved in the plasma. Urine osmolality, the amount of solutes which are dissolved in the urine. So this osmolality test will give us the concentration of substances. Either it could be sodium, it could be potassium, it could be glucose. It is used to evaluate the balance between water and the dissolved particles in the blood and the urine, and this is the optimal range of osmolality, 275 to 295 milliosmoles per kg. How do we study the water balance of a cell? Remember, suppose if there is an isotonic solution, tonicity is equal, so that is why the name iso. So iso is equal. So outside and inside concentration of the solutes are equal in the isotonic solution. So that will not cause any change to the cell. So the overall concentration are equal and the cell remains constant. Whereas in a hypotonic solution, you will see that the outside concentration is lower compared to the inside concentration of the solute. Hence what happens? Water will move into the cell because the concentration of the solutes are more inside. The outside whatever solvent is there, that moves inside, and that will cause the cell to expand, and then it will lyse. So that happens in a hypotonic solution, to expand and lyse. In hypertonic solution, what happens? The concentration of the sodium will be more outside the cell. So the fluid will move from inside the cell to outside. So because of this movement of the water from inside to outside, the cell will shrink. So this is how the cell reacts to isotonic, hypotonic and hypertonic solution. So I've told you, in hyponatremia, that is when the person is having low sodium in his serum. So what happens? The concentration of sodium is less outside. Usually the sodium is high outside, but here what happens? The sodium is low outside compared to the sodium inside. So whatever water is there, it starts moving from the outside environment to inside. So the cell will swell up. In hypernatremia, what happens? The concentration of sodium is more. It is more than 145 milliequivalents per liter. So in hypernatremia, what happens? Sodium is seen in a higher concentration, more than 145 milliequivalents per liter. Where it is seen? It is seen in the extracellular compartment. So when the concentration outside is more of sodium compared to inside, water from inside will follow this sodium and it will move out of the cell, causing cell shrinkage. This becomes important because the clinical signs, the clinical symptoms जो है, that will be the manifestation of cellular swelling or cellular dehydration. तो इसके लिए ये पैथोफिजियोलॉजी जानना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है. तो हम आगे के स्लाइड्स में देखेंगे कि अगर हमने आइसोटोनिक नॉर्मल सलाइन को ऐड किया तो क्या होगा, हाइपोटोनिक नॉर्मल सलाइन को ऐड किया तो क्या होगा, हाइपरटोनिक नॉर्मल सलाइन को ऐड किया तो क्या क्या होगा, टू द ऑस्मोलैलिटी एज वेल एज द फ्लूइड कंपार्टमेंट्स. तो सपोज we added an isotonic sodium chloride solution. Iso means the concentration is same. So हमने solution add किया है. Yes, the ECF compartment का the fluid will be, volume will be increased. So ये जो volume था यहाँ पे जो x axis है, ये ज़्यादा थोड़ा बढ़ जाएगा. But the concentration of the solutes here and here, it is same. So overall concentration are equal and the cell remains the same. So that happens in the isotonic solution when it is added. Now a hypotonic solution. So what is an hypotonic solution? Hypotonic solution is a one in which the lower concentration of the solute than the other solution. So suppose if I add hypotonic sodium chloride, so I have added a fluid, definitely the extracellular compartment is going to expand. Now I have added a hypotonic sodium chloride. The concentration of sodium is less outside. In the extracellular fluid, the concentration of sodium is less. So what happens when the concentration of sodium is less outside and it is more inside? Compare it to outside, it is more inside. Water will move from outside to inside. So when the water will move from outside to inside, the intracellular fluid will expand, the cell will expand. So this is what happens when you add a hypotonic sodium chloride. When you add a hypertonic sodium chloride, you are adding fluid, definitely there will be an expansion of the extracellular fluid. But what happens? The concentration of solute in the extracellular space is more. So sodium becomes more outside. So the fluid, whatever is there from the intracellular compartment, moves outside. So the intracellular compartment will shrink. So this happens in when we add an hypertonic sodium chloride. Tonic solution, there will be no change in the cell. In the hypotonic solution, the cell will swell, and in hypertonic solution, the cell will shrink. So same thing here. So this is a hypotonic solution where the concentration of the sodium, what you can see, it is less compared to the concentration of the solutes inside. So this water will go wherever the sodium is high. It will follow the sodium. So the cell will swell. Whereas in hypertonic, outside only there is so much of sodium. So whatever water is inside the cell, it starts moving out. So the cell will shrink. So in sodium diseases, we have two main categories. One is hyponatremia and hypernatremia. Hyponatremia is when the sodium concentration is less than 135 milliequivalents per liter, and hypernatremia when the concentration of sodium is more than 145. So sodium and water, they play an important role in maintaining the balance in our body. So whenever we say about hyponatremia, what happens usually is it is not the sodium which becomes less, it is the fluid concentration, the total body water which becomes more, and it appears that the sodium concentration has gone down. So that will create the changes in the cell, either the cell shrinkage or the cell swelling, etc. So hyponatremia is an electrolyte imbalance that occurs when there is too much of water. So because there is too much of water, the sodium which is there, it appears less. There is relatively low sodium in the body, which results in low sodium level in the blood. So this is what you have to remember. When you hear about hyponatremia, it is the relative increase in water which is causing decrease in the sodium. Water and sodium are very important to maintain the electrolyte as well as the fluid balance in our body. Whenever there is an increase or decrease in either of them, that causes imbalance in the electrolytes or the fluid balance. The hyponatremia or hypernatremia can happen because of changes in the body volume. The fluid balance mostly depends upon the electrolyte concentration. So sodium is one such electrolyte which plays an important role in maintaining the fluid balance. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like, share and subscribe the channel. Thank you.